My name is Rachel, and I was facing down a controller in a purple and pink Dunkin' Donuts uniform. He was holding a Dracon beam, smirking, the little jerk. Tsew! Tsew! He fired at point-blank range, hit me right between my 3-foot-long tusks. I roared in pain and anger, mostly anger. Like a couple of Dracon beam blasts are enough to take down a 1,300-pound African elephant. You know, if you want to show off how dangerous your antagonists are, I can think of better ways than having them shoot the heroes with their signature disintegration weapons point blank in the face twice and have the heroes just shake it off like it was nothing. It's hard to feel worried about our heroes when they laugh in the face of death rays.
We all know it's called Superbook. It shows us all the places that we want to go and look. Superbook! Superbook!
Look, kids, it's the second Helmacron book. That thing nobody was asking for. Hooray! Well, okay, in fairness, Kay Applegate was once quoted in saying that only half the readers actually hated the Helmacrons, which might be true. As I said back in my review of number 24, The Suspicion, the Helmacrons weren't totally awful as a one-time idea. That book was entertaining fluff that had its moments. But I also said it probably should have come in the series pre-David trilogy, a time when the Animorphs were brushing shoulders with evil Jonathan Taylor Thomas and evil Bill Gates, when they were breaking into Area 51 to steal a toilet and weaponizing instant oatmeal and getting chased around by dinosaurs. Once you've thrown a dead body down an elevator shaft, playtime is officially over, and that's even more true with this book. Not only are we post-David trilogy, we're post an entire book of Tobias getting tortured, post-Jake getting his brains blown out, post-Rachel causing a guy to die of a heart attack, post-Marco pushing his mother off a cliff, post-Axe nearly getting butchered in a meat processing plant, post-Cassie getting vaporized. The time for lighter, goofier books is long gone. So we open with the Animorphs attacking a Dunkin' Donuts, which is secretly a Yeerk factory where they're mass-producing portable Kandrona machines, which could eliminate the need of a big central Yeerk pool and allow controllers to go to a frickin' funeral without starving to death. So of course the Animorphs are wrecking this shit. I can't see it. I can't hear it. I'm just going to enjoy this glazed donut and overpriced coffee in peace. Goddamn fucking elephant! So the Animorphs wreck the place, but have to rush out a side door into an alley to demorph, since I guess this epic battle between giant dangerous animals and a handful of Dunkin' Donut employees took all of 2 hours. Then this happens. Who was that? Cassie demanded, with a mouth that was half wolf and half human. A small explosion of light, Axe said. I believe it is part of a primitive visual recording device called a camera. What? Marco exploded. Someone took a picture of me? Not cool. Do you see what I'm wearing? I'm Spandex Boy. Totally not cool. Somehow I got the bright idea of Google image searching Spandex Boy. Pretty sure I'm on Chris Hansen's list now. So yeah, the kid took a picture of the Animorphs in mid-morph with a disposable camera, and he makes a run for it back to his apartment complex. I lost him, Tobias said grimly. He ran into that building with the pigeon cages on the roof. Ah, shit, now he's under the protection of Ghost Dog. We're screwed, guys. They're not exactly sure which apartment is his, so the Animorphs take shifts watching the buildings in Birdmorph. They finally figure out which floor he's on, so they reconvene at Cassie's barn to plan their heist, when suddenly a radio-controlled toy car blew into the barn. More precisely, a slightly damp pink and aqua Barbie 4x4. Only instead of Barbie, a very small spaceship sat in the driver's seat. The ship was 3 or 4 inches long, shaped like a baton with 2 big engines at the back and a death's head bridge on the front. The ship looked way too familiar. Insignificant creatures, give us the power source and learn to accept your fate as our eternal slaves. We will not crush and annihilate you, as we will crush and annihilate all the inferior species on this planet. Oh, man, I said, you've got to be kidding, not these guys again. My sentiments exactly, Rachel. Today's ghostwriter is Emily Costello, whom we saw previously as the ghostwriter of Alternamorphs number 2, The Next Passage. Costello seems mostly involved with journalism these days, being an editor for 2 Massachusetts newspapers, Salem News and the Newton TAB, and has an editing and reporting career that goes back all the way to the late 1980s. Her initial involvement with Scholastic began in 1994 when she was brought on as a contributing editor for their Science World magazine, though if that's how she wound up in Kay Applegate's circle of friends remains undocumented. The majority of her credited book work came out in the 1990s, being a regular author for the Full House and Party of 5 tie-in books, as well as being the main author of 2 original series. The first was something called Soccer Stars, which I have not read, but appears to be a fairly generic sports title. The other series is, oh my god, this is amazing, Animal Emergency. I've gone on about this before, but you know how a good chunk of standard young person literature involves cute pets getting hurt? Dogs are usually the victims. We've got Old Yeller and Where the Red Fern Grows and Shiloh and White Fang and so on and so on. Well, Animal Emergency is an entire series devoted to cute pets getting hurt, using a combination of sad animal artwork and super simple titles to hook you into some tragic pet stories. Oh no, it's an abandoned puppy, and oh, it's a lost kitten, and oh no, not a pony in trouble. Oh, hit and running retriever, it's so sad, but not as sad as Lonely Lamb. Oh no, but look, a frightened fawn and ducks in danger. Oh, my poor little heart. Cassie would eat this series up. Anyway, I haven't found a book credited to Costello newer than 2005, so either she's completely focused on the journalism stuff now, or has been entirely ghostwriting since then. So how good is she as a writer here? Okay, workmanlike, I guess. She's okay at describing the things happening in a matter-of-fact way, but she does have one glaring weakness in the way that she composes her scenes, which I'll get to when it pops up. So the Helmacrons are back. Their ship is broken, and they need the power source, aka the Morphing Cube. How did this happen? Well, just like in number 24, The Suspicion, some chapters open with excerpts from the Helmacrons' Star Trek-style captain's logs, breaking the immersion that these books are like memoirs being written by the characters. Well, from these we learn that the Helmacron down in engineering is colorblind and pressed the red button instead of the blue button. What that did is not explained, and we don't get any reason as to why the Helmacrons are hanging around Earth in the first place. This sets a dangerous precedent, because this means Helmacrons can just pop in at any time, like Kramer sliding into Jerry Seinfeld's apartment. We don't even need reasons anymore. So the Helmacrons start cutting into the barn's freezer, the new hiding spot for the Morphing Cube. Smart, seeing as how any bugs passing by might accidentally bump into it and turn into an eldritch horror. Why does your dad keep a freezer out here? I asked her. We store stuff in it, Cassie said. She handed me an unidentifiable lump of something. It was frozen solid, so cold my fingers started to ache. Like what? Frozen grubs? Cassie said, leaning back down into the freezer. Certain bodily fluids from the animals? Oh, and popsicles. Dad likes grape. It's a little game my dad likes to play called Popsicle or Animal Semen. You just gotta close your eyes, grab something, and hope for the best. So while trying to stop the Helmacron ship with a pitchfork, Rachel accidentally elbows Marco and knocks him unconscious. The Helmacrons take this opportunity to evacuate the ship and head right into Marco's nose, threatening to kill him if they don't hand over the cube. Of course, you don't negotiate with goofy comedy terrorists, so the Animorphs refuse the offer. Marco wakes up and they brainstorm on what to do, but there's still the matter of the kid with the camera, whom Axe is presently keeping watch on. Now, I'm going to read a sizable chunk of book here, almost 2 pages worth, but to make my next point I have to read the whole thing, so bear with me. Tobias, you'd better get Axe, Jake said. First, see if you can get Eric to keep watch for us. He won't be able to follow the kid with the camera if he leaves the building, but at least we'll know where he is. Tobias flared his wings and was gone. Can we go in after them? Jake asked. Cassie made a face. Smallest morph? Guess a flea is small enough to get into nasal passages. It might be tight, though. Maybe a tick? Ticks are useless in battle, I said. Excuse me, Marco cried. Are you planning to have a battle in my nose? You have a better suggestion? I demanded. No, Marco whimpered, slumping down on a bale of hay. Ideas, Jake demanded. Cassie sighed. Well, we have the Helmacron's ship. We could power it up with the morphing cube, get tiny, and go after the Helmacrons as humans. That is, assuming the controller's still working. Nobody said anything for a few beats, considering, pretending not to glance at Marco. I know Marco. Marco is a get-it-done guy. He has the strategic mind of a serious military officer, and he's never afraid to make unpopular decisions for the good of the mission. He knew our going after the Helmacrons was the fastest way to solve the problem. He wasn't going to stand in the way of the goal. Still, we were talking about invading his body in an unbelievably intimate way. He had a right to be a jerk about it if he wanted it to be. That could work, Jake said tentatively. Nothing from Marco. What could work? Tobias asked. A red-tailed hawk and a northern harrier fluttered into the barn and settled into the rafters. Tobias and Axe. All right, did you catch it? Did you catch it? In real time, that dialogue would have taken not much more than a minute. And in that minute, Tobias managed to fly from Cassie's barn on the outskirts of the city to the inner city apartment building, relay instructions to Eric, and then fly all the way back with Axe. That would only be possible if the apartment was right next door to the barn and Tobias learned speed talking from the Micro Machines man. This here is Costello's glaring weakness that I mentioned before. She's bad at time management. Things are either happening impossibly fast, impossibly slow, or sometimes both at once. The first example of it was the opening fight, in which a tiny scuffle with Dunkin' Donut employees apparently took 2 hours, but since none of that means anything to the plot, it's easy to ignore. Tobias doing in 1 minute what should have taken him a half hour? Much more jarring. Oh, and going back to the first bit of that passage, why can't Eric follow the camera kid? What's stopping him? Does he have obligations elsewhere? If so, can't other Chi cover for him? What's going on with this book? All right, the Animorphs have to go up Marco's nose to save him, so they get Axe to rig up the Helmacron ship to shrink them using Cassie's dad's vet equipment. I'd make a Fantastic Voyage joke or a Magic School Bus joke, but the book does it for me. 12 times. Nobody fucking shuts up about the Fantastic Voyage or the Magic School Bus. Pop culture, I get it. God! Prince Jake, Axe said. I would also strongly advise Marco not to morph while we are inside his body. As far as I know, this is an unprecedented event in the history of morphing technology. There is no way to predict what the redistribution of his mass in his Z-space and the substitution of a foreign DNA will do to our miniaturized bodies. Maybe we should do that first. Maybe Marco morphing and killing all the Helmacrons in his body should be plan A. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work and you guys have a better gauge as to how morphing will affect you guys as you climb around in Marco's vascular system. But no, Axe flips the switch, the Animorphs shrink and climb up Marco's nose. At this point, we start having the occasional chapter narrated by Marco as he tries to deal with the camera kid plot while the rest of the Animorphs take on the Helmacrons, which leads to another one of Costello's timing problems as these two storylines can't possibly be in sync with each other. The adventure inside Marco's body is paced so that it feels like it's not taking more than a couple of hours, maybe as short as 90 minutes. But Marco's separate adventure is said to take place over 12 hours. It's not nearly as jarring as it could have been because, despite Marco's involvement in both plots, they actually have very little to do with each other. But if you're going to have these parallel plots, you really should probably map out events to make sure there's some kind of cohesion between the two. So the Animorphs find themselves up Marco's nose, where they eventually catch up with the Helmacrons, who have gotten themselves stuck in some snot and are bickering with each other as Helmacrons do. However, something is wrong, as the Helmacrons are way bigger than the shrunken down Animorphs.